I'd like to call this meeting of the Festus City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Councilman Boyer,
Here.
Councilman Underwood, Councilman Wilkie,
Here.
Councilman Weiner,
Here.
Councilman Dennis,
Here.
Councilman Benz,
Here.
Councilman Cook, Councilman Tennant.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of the consent agenda. Tonight, our warrants amount to $533,802.66. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Who was that second?
That was Dennis and Weiner.
Okay. Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie,
Yes.
Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Tennant.
Yes. Motion passed. Remarks of visitors,
We received none.
we have none. Bids,
The first bid you have there is for us to be able to take the equipment that you see here as kind of a hodgepodge and make it possible for us to continue to do virtual meetings. This amount would be reimbursed through the CARES Act funding that the county received. In fact, both the items that you see here as bids, they are non-budgeted, but we fully expected we would see reimbursement that would allow for the full council to be microphoned, for permanent cameras to be mounted as opposed to the one that we have hiding over the exit sign, along with video monitors for the council to be able to see what's part of the presentation at any time. Happy to answer any questions.
Greg, one quick question. So on are we pretty much, is this amount guaranteed that it will be reimbursed, or will we not purchase the item until we do we have to purchase it in order to get reimbursed, and are we pretty well guaranteed that we will get reimbursed?
Yes, that is the way it is set up to work. I did take this quotation to the county last Thursday for them to start working on that. We had this in addition to about another $30,000 in expenses that have been related to the pandemic since March. I would expect that we would hear from Dennis Gannon here in the not too distant future. Probably as early as this week.
Okay.
you want to just do this one first?
Yeah, we can do them separately.
I'll entertain a motion. Is there any other questions?
Yes, I'm in. I did that web thing, so it's probably a little different. Yeah. Yeah, they're looking at me right now.
I'll entertain a
Okay, thank
motion
you.
to approve forward/technology virtual meeting equipment for $26,132.13.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded.
I'll second it. You can have that.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Benz, Councilman Tennant.
Motion passes.
The other item on here is during this pandemic, I think the one thing we've been concerned about the most is being able to have certain critical city hall functions be able to continue in the event that we had to close everything down. Most notably, human resources, payroll, and for us to also, the finance director, the city clerk, also to be able to access basically through a virtual private network, be able to access the computers here at City Hall, the server here at City Hall, so that in the event that we couldn't be here, we would still be able to take care of basic city functions like making sure we can get everyone paid in a timely fashion. So these laptops would go into service for that, again, reimbursable through the CARES Act funding. It would also be, one of them would also be part of the permanent setup that we would use here in the council chamber.
Are there any questions or any discussion? Hearing
Greg, are
none.
those, yes, one. Greg, are those the same laptops that we have budgeted for $4,000?
They are in the new budget to cover the reimbursement cost. So on the revenue side and the expense side, it basically turns into a wash.
Very good. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of telecommute equipment for $7,761.68. Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilman Boyer. Councilman Wilkie,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Tennant.
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis.
Yes.
Motion passed. Made. Purchase the equipment. Tonight, we have a resolution. We have resolution 4595 and a half on the agenda. Would the clerk please read the resolution?
Resolution number 4595 and a half, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Festus supporting the application to the Missouri Housing Development Commission by Snyder Development LLC for a 36-unit affordable senior multifamily housing on Brandon Wallace Way and establishing an effective date.
Pete Ramsel with Snyder Development is on our Zoom call. If you have any questions related, this is with Patrick Werner. If you recall, 2 years ago, they attempted to apply for these credits through the Missouri Housing Development Commission. Also, a group proposed the same thing last year. So Pete's here if you have any questions for him at this time. Or Pete, if you have anything you'd like to add.
No, I appreciate you allowing me to be on the call and be on the agenda. This is the same proposal that we submitted in 2018, 36 units, single story, meeting your parking requirements. As I remember, it was actually rezoned. That piece of property was rezoned for this purpose.
Yeah, that is correct.
So we're talking about the same thing that we were talking about in 2018. This resolution of support is extremely important. It's this process is very, very competitive. There'll be over 100 applications and probably only 30 get funded. So city support, local support is just a critical part of this application. We are asking you basically to do a resolution of support. Typically, the mayor will write a letter of support, and then the city manager will give us a letter specific to zoning and compliance with the comprehensive plan. We're in the process of putting this application together. They're due October the 30th. We understand from the MHDC staff that we'll have decisions in December. We hope this is our year.
Is there any other discussion? Thank you, sir.
Hey, Pete,
Thank
real
you.
quick question. Can you hear me, Pete?
Barely.
What happened in 2018? I don't remember.
2018, we submitted the application and it was not funded. And typically what we do is we come back right after that. We meet with the staff. The staff will say to us whether they like the proposal or they didn't like the proposal. They liked the proposal in 2018. They suggested that we resubmit. In 2019, there was a different owner of the property than the current owner. Pat Warner is the current owner. I have worked with Pat, for years and years and years. We're both old, so we've been around together, worked MHDC properties together. At one time, I was the executive director of the Missouri Housing Development Commission. And so Pat and I go way back. We've got a great relationship. Long story short, obviously it didn't get funded. I understand it was a 3-story elevator building that was proposed last year. So that would have been the 2019 application. When Pat purchased the property, we immediately started talking about resubmitting our proposal, which is again 36 units, single story. So that's what we're trying to do. If we get your blessing, we're going to submit this application, and we think we've got a good chance of getting it funded this year.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or any other discussion? There being no further discussion, could I have a motion to approve resolution number 4595.5?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie, Councilman Wilkie,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution has been approved. Next, we have bill number 4595 on the agenda. Would the clerk please read that bill for the first time, please?
Bill number 4595, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, establishing an additional duty assignment as Assistant City Administrator and establishing an effective date.
Bill 4595 is now open for discussion. Can I have a staff report?
Gentlemen, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. This is, as we discussed here a couple of weeks ago, this is giving myself and the council the ability to assign the title, duties, responsibilities to any of the current staff assigned to the position of Building and Planning Director, Chief of Police, City Clerk, Finance Director, Fire Chief, Parks Director, or Public Works Director. In this case, the request with the ordinance passage would be that we would be able to designate Matt Unrein as the Assistant City Administrator, and Matt is here tonight on his first day at work. But happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions or any discussion? Hearing none, could I have a motion to suspend the rules and read Bill 4595 for the second time in title only?
So moved.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you please read Bill 4595 for the second time?
Bill number 4595, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, establishing an additional duty assignment as Assistant City Administrator and establishing an effective date. Councilman Tennant,
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie,
Yes.
Councilman Boyer.
Yes.
Motion carries. Bill 4595 has passed. Next, we have Bill 4596 on the agenda. Would the clerk please read that bill for the first time?
Bill number 4596, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, approving the Festus Commerce and Business Center Plat 5 and establishing an effective date.
Comments from Mark Harris are in your packets, and I'll full disclosure, typically when we run plat approvals through P&Z and City Council, it's done with the final. Mark being excited about his new job as Building and Planning Director, ran the preliminary plat through, which is the one you gave approval to here a couple of weeks back. The final plat is unchanged from the preliminary plat that you gave approval to, but procedure calls that the final plat receive a review and vote from City Council.
Any discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to suspend the rules and read Bill 4596 for the second time and title only? Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you please read Bill 4596 for the second time?
Bill number 4596, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, approving the Festus Commerce and Business Center Plat 5 and establishing an effective date. Councilman Tennant.
Yes.
Councilman Benz.
Yes.
Councilman Dennis.
Yes.
Councilman Weiner.
Yes.
Councilman Boyer.
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie.
Yes.
Motion carries. Bill 4596 has been approved. Next, we have Bill 4597. Madam Clerk, would you please read the bill for the first time?
Bill number 4597, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, levying and authorizing the assessment and collection of a tax for the fiscal year 2020, 2021 for public health purposes, public library, general revenue purposes, and city parks, and fixing the time for the taking effect of this ordinance.
Could I have a staff report, please?
Certainly, the tax levies are reviewed and adjusted annually by Jefferson County. These rates are unchanged from the current fiscal year.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, could I entertain a motion to read Bill 4597 for the second time, suspending?
So moved. So moved.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you please read Bill 4597 for the second time?
Bill number 4597, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, levying and authorizing the assessment and collection of a tax for the fiscal year 2020, 2021 for the public health purposes, public library, general revenue purposes, and city parks, and fixing the time for the taking effect of this ordinance. Councilman Boyer.
Yes.
Councilman Wilkie.
Yes.
Councilman Weiner.
Yes.
Councilman Dennis.
Yes.
Councilman Benz.
Yes.
Councilman Tennant.
Yes.
Bill 4597 has been approved. Gentlemen, I got a call from information from the building commissioner, Mark Harris, and requested that Bill 4598 be tabled until next meeting. I'll entertain a motion to table this bill. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Bill 4598 has been tabled until the next meeting. New business.
We have a request from Dan Luck the owner of Four Brothers Mead and Aaron Mercer, who's a partner in the business, specifically asking that the parking lot directly behind the business be allowed to be used for their Mead on Main Festival, which is Saturday, October 3rd. They do have in fact, we just received today their full liability insurance for the event. Obviously, they will be practicing the recommendations from the CDC and from the Jefferson County Health Department. And with good weather, this rear lot would provide them with some additional space, I think, for folks to be able to be socially distanced and safe. But again, with council's approval of the use of the parking lot.
I think that was one of our concerns, was the social distancing and, you know, things that the CDC would require. Since we've canceled, Festus canceled everything, you know, we was kind of concerned about this one, but we'll go.
Chief, if they're gonna be off-site from their building, are they gonna need a one-day liquor license or a picnic license if they're planning on selling, giving away any type of alcoholic beverages?
I believe all the serving will be inside the facility, so they don't have the ability to serve outside. And they're currently allowed to serve on, or they currently allowed to consume on the patio, so, yeah, good question.
Will it be limited?
That's a question I wouldn't be able to answer, Bobby, as far as what the consumption is allowed or not allowed to be.
I mean, like you said, if everything else being canceled, I mean, how much trouble Festus is gonna get looked at if we let a party go on and we get making headline news that council let this party go on and then now people are getting COVID left and right.
Well,
I mean,
that's the balancing act that you're being asked to take right now, is whether or not the business, which is a private event, they're bearing the full responsibility of the event. They're carrying the insurance for the event. They did receive a small amount of funding from tourism to put on the event, but all that really has covered is their advertising costs. I think if in their letter that they would receive from us telling them that it's a go or a no-go, if it's a go, that we would strongly encourage that they practice all of the safe practices that are pretty well known by now.
I think my input on it is to basically cover the council and put any verbiage in there.
Can't hear
Jim,
you,
would
Jim.
you speak up, please?
I was just saying that I think my opinion on that would be as long as we had all the verbiage that we could possibly have to cover the city council and the city's about for any liability. Basically put it on them that they're doing this on their own. I mean, we have to approve it. I get that.
Right.
But
Well, there was a car show and there's been other events, private events that have went on. So I'm not sure how we could say no on this one.
I think, Kevin, all I'm saying is just follow the guidelines of the,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely.
And just try to be safe about it, not stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm saying is absolutely all guidelines be followed. But, you know, there's been kind of somewhat of a precedent set here there was a car show. I believe there's been other things that have been privately sponsored that maybe we haven't had as much say in. So, you know, I agree exactly what you're saying, Jim.
You know, I think, I'm sorry, Jim.
I think there should be something in writing that they can sign as well. So at least we can have something come back and follow up.
That would be something very easy for us to, just basically a simple statement encouraging. Now, we're not in a position to be able to enforce,
Right.
but encouraging them to practice all of the current red level Jefferson County Health Department recommendations. And that may change between now and October 3rd as well. The level, it can't get any worse than red, but it could come down from there as well.
one thing I would like to say, I'd like to point out that, Kevin, I mean, you're correct in that we did have a precedent like with the car show. Pardon me. But when the car show was going on, we were just at that orange level or yellow level right below red. And now we are at red level. And this is a time that I think we have to tread lightly, because if we just we can tell people to, or we can ask people to abide by those guidelines, but if we're in essence allowing festivals or large groups of people congregating during a red level, I think that we're changing the anatomy of our structure that we have had in the past.
Does Brian have anything to add to this? Brian, any guidance here?
So my guidance would be that this sort of permit issuance is like considered a ministerial task. That is, the question I think is, do they meet the criteria or do they not? So if we were to deny the request, I think we would need to be able to point to something either in our code or our policies that we follow for these permits that we can say we're not approving it because you didn't comply with X, Y, or Z. If there's an area that gives the council some discretion, that's fine, but I think we would need to identify exactly why the request is being denied.
Well, my best interest is just not make it look Festus like Lake of the Ozarks and be making news for allowing something. I mean, I don't mind going on. People do what they're supposed to do. I've been doing it, keeping social, but I just don't want us to look and say, oh, they let us do it and I got COVID. They want to come back and sue us or something, for allowing them to have a party.
Right. And I would just reiterate, it's a private, it's not private, it's an event being held by a private business. It is open to the public, obviously. They're asking for some additional space to be able to move out into the parking lot there on the South Second. So I think to Brian's point, there's certainly not much in our code that would allow us to pick and choose based on the fact that we have a global pandemic that is continuing to rage on. So I think as long as we strongly encourage them, and I think we would suggest the possibility of considering postponing the event until maybe the levels are a little safer than where we are now. But at the end of the day, I don't know. We could deny the use of the South Second lot. I just don't know if we have a leg to stand on to do that.
So Greg, if we, as Brian said, we have a ministerial obligation to the community. So just for the sake of argument, let's just say that this rate quadrupled what it is right now, and we would still not have any anything that would be different as far as codes go. So at what point are we able to make a decision that would be different than allowing this to happen?
Well, and Kevin, jump in here if you like, or I should say Brian, jump in here if you like. But I would say the state and the county are pretty clear in giving the power to health department to be able to kind of regulate a pandemic situation. We do not statutorily as a third-class city have necessarily that ability unless we're under some form of emergency declaration. Brian, I don't know if there would be anything else that we could.
No, I think that's generally correct. I think if you were, we had the emergency, the state of emergency ordinance in effect for a period of time that's now expired. Something like that could theoretically be grounds to deny a permit if granting the permit would contravene something that's set forth in the ordinance, or that's an order issued pursuant to that ordinance. I think failing that, you would need to consider amending the city's code requirements for this type of permit issuance, which you could do if you want to. But I think the point is that you would need to make the criteria kind of have to be set out up front and be selected in a way that can be applied neutrally and clearly, I guess, is the best way to put it. And uniformly is.
So, agree.
No, I'm just saying, just go ahead. If it's deeply strong, just let them know. We really urge you to postpone this, but
Depending on, I think, the COVID level we're at red right now. I think it sounds like a recommendation would be for us, for them to consider postponing the event until that level drops into the orange and the yellow or the green.
They still need to be able to move forward with their advertising.
Right.
But what about like the occupancy inside the building? Is that going to be allowed?
No, that would be, I mean, that's not flexible.
That goes back to the county restriction.
Well, you see, if you want to call them restrictions, the county has recommendations. County Health Department, to be clear about that, it's the County Health Department of recommendations.
You know, I'm like this because like the deal they had at Sturgis,
Mhm.
and that's taking some heat.
Mhm.
But can you imagine telling 450,000 people they can't come?
Right.
So I don't know. I think if we just, you know, Brian, what do you think of this about the letter? Is that even necessary, you think, or is it just something out there, a formality? Or what do you think?
So you as far as any sort of caveat or waiver of liability as to the city?
Yes.
I mean, as far as something specific to COVID, I don't know that anything specific in that regard would be required. The city still has its sovereign immunity and immunity from tort litigation, and if someone were going to try to make a claim against the city, you know, they would have to find one of the recognized exceptions to sovereign immunity to invoke. I don't, you know, by just approving the permit in and of itself, that I don't think the city is taking on the role of the insurer or the guarantor of the event and its safety to the public in terms of exposure to COVID.
So, I mean, basically, if the council would recommend not having it, you couldn't word it to say that it's not our position to say yay or nay, but we're not for it.
Yeah, we can certainly say that. I don't see any reason why we couldn't.
I mean, because that's how I feel. I mean, I don't think they should, but I don't see how you can stop it either.
Correct.
So,
And I think to Brian's first point, which was we really don't have a checklist of criteria that have to be met in order for them to ask for and be granted the use of the parking lot there on South Second.
Right.
So
because basically, I think if you was at the restaurant in the area or the outside patios, you're seeing people following their own rules. It seems to me like there's nobody following any set rules, and that's kind of how I feel about this. I'm not a promoter of it, but I don't think you can oppose it because you're stopping supply from making a living, so to speak. What do you guys think of that?
well, and barring a change in the orders from either the county executive or the county health department. We're just not, short of an emergency order, we're just not allowed to try to enforce a health order. But the health department is.
I'm not so sure I follow that. So, I've said enough.
Greg, the one thing I'd like to add on this comes from the city of Festus standpoint, the parking lot. I think that should be recommended. Particularly they contact people that normally park there, live in those apartments. Shouldn't be the city's job to have to contact.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
That was their contact.
Okay.
And then all this church.
Greg, I'm concerned because at that red level, that because there hasn't been anything go on before at that red level, that we're in essence condoning an event at a red level. I was.
Yeah, unless Brian Malone says otherwise, I don't see where the approval letter or whatever correspondence we sent to them as a follow-up couldn't state that the city has grave concerns or serious concerns about hosting the event while our current COVID level is in the red. I don't see any reason why we can't say that.
I think we could include a statement to that effect.
I think we need to, as I previously stated, look into the future of this thing then too, and see, like when this pandemic started, we had like I don't know if I think it was called a trigger, for the city. It was kind of like an if-then statement. So if this happens, then we do this. So, I mean, if we're at the highest level, but if things could get like really nasty, I just. I've said enough. That's all I have to say.
I think it's complicated because I don't know anyone here that's had any experience with pandemics. There's been a lot of us being on the council, and we all know what the recommendations are and everything else. I just don't know as a city what we can do other than say we highly recommend you don't do this event, with it being at the high level and the ability to practice social distancing not being followed and wearing a mask and things. People are saying it's their personal choices, so yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a very tricky one, because here I am sitting at home from Zoom, trying not to get out as much, keeping my family healthy and everyone else healthy. So yeah, it's a very tricky situation here. But I think we have to make it very clear how we feel about what they're requesting. Just saying you can't do that, but we highly recommend that you don't do it at this high level. I don't know what else we can do, to be honest with you.
And today's number in the city of Festus was 186 active cases today in the health department.
I would think that based on what I'm hearing everybody says or saying, I would think the meat company would be the one ultimately responsible for
Survey.
Right. I mean, based on write a letter saying we're not highly recommend against it, but each individual
Really having trouble hearing you guys.
Each individual can decide their fate. I mean, that's pretty much the way it is, isn't it?
That's the way it certainly has been since the executive orders from the county executive and the health department have changed, despite the fact that we went down into the yellow and then the new color, and now we're back into the red. The approach to it hasn't changed.
my thought.
Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, I'd like to have a roll call on this vote. I'll need a motion to either approve or disapprove this request.
Sam, can you put on there based on a letter from the city?
Yes,
What we talked about?
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And I will circulate, I may recruit Mr. Malone, but I'll work on a draft tomorrow, have Brian take a look at it and get it circulated to everyone for just a review.
So Greg, we cannot legally stop them. I mean, this cannot legally be stopped. So we actually, in essence, have no, other than doing some emergency act, we have to just say, please don't do this, but that's as far as we can go with it.
I think what Brian Malone touched on is if you were to deny the permit for the use of the South Second Lot, we don't necessarily have grounds to do that. It would be, now, I think you could probably sit there and say, but it's a global pandemic and the threat level is at red. So there's a lot of reasons why you could give, you're doing it, but there's nothing in our code that gives you reason to do it. Let me just put it that way. Brian, is that the gist of it?
Yeah, I think so. And I should be clear. I don't know if there is an applicable section of the code. I don't have that pulled up, but the general principles that I've been speaking of are correct. That yeah, if you offer this parking lot out as something that people can rope off for events, and you've done that in the past, and you've approved people for it in the past. If you're going to deny someone the use of this lot that you otherwise are permit people to use, you would need to identify some, I guess, deficiency in the application, some statutory provision, some ordinance provision, or some policy provision of the city that has not been met or adhered to by the applicant, or that the event would violate. If we have something like that, then that could serve as the basis to deny it. I'm inferring from Greg that staff has not seen anything that this application would violate, and I haven't heard tonight that there is anything in our ordinances that this event would violate. And it's something that moving forward, if the city wants to, either for the short term while the pandemic is going on, or in the long term, you want to develop more stringent standards for these types of events, that's definitely something that we can work with you on. And that's definitely something that you can do and have a little bit more formality to the procedure, so that when these applications come before you, you can say, we're not going to approve this one because it does not comply with the conditions that we've set.
So basically, we got to say yes, but with the restrictions that we highly recommend not to.
The recommendation.
In order to cover the city, so we don't get in trouble for denying somebody else.
You don't gotta do it.
Well, but I'm saying it's highly recommended.
Yeah.
Say yes, but we are recommending that you do not.
I think there's no reason why we can't word it in such a
Right.
way that is,
It just keeps us out of.
makes it very clear what our concerns are.
I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, because I don't want us to look for future saying, well, you guys do this, and as long as we say yes, but we very highly recommend no, that you do not, but at least it makes us look, showing how concerned we are.
What about all the baseball games?
We don't have control of that.
Tennis.
No. Yeah, we don't have control.
No, I don't, but
I mean, short of closing the parks, we could do that, but again, that's something that would have to come out of an emergency.
well, that's what I'm saying. Greg. It's really, we have no say so on what Davis doing.
I mean, if they didn't come and ask us for the use of the parking, it would have been completely under our radar, unless you saw an advertisement for it or something like that. But we knew about it because they came and asked for security.
But realistically, they didn't have to go to parking lot. No.
Jim, speak up, please.
I said that realistically, if they didn't have to rope the parking lot off, they wouldn't even be coming to us in the first place.
Correct.
Realistically, they can use the parking lot and not rope it off.
Correct.
Okay, I think we better vote.
I have one question before we go further. Greg, this is procedural. Do you have to vote yes or no? I've never abstained from a vote, but can you abstain from voting for this?
Brian, refresh me on abstention voting, if you can recall off the top of your head.
So the way this would work, this isn't an ordinance where, an ordinance requires, by law, a majority of the council. So that means generally there's 8 council members. You either need 4 yeses plus the mayor breaking the tie, or 5 yeses, or the motion fails. So here you're operating with, since we're not dealing with an ordinance, it's kind of the most votes wins, and you are short, I believe, 2 council members tonight. So you have a quorum to operate. So a majority of the quorum is what is necessary to approve this.
So it is possible to abstain?
So you can, you can't really be compelled to vote yes or no. You can, if you feel you must abstain, you can. It's more or less going to be treated as a no, I guess, because it's not going to be a yes, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the request by Four Brothers Mead to use the parking lot on Second Street.
I'll make the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilman Tennant,
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Abstain from this vote?
Councilman Wilkie,
No.
Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Motion carries 4-2. Halloween trick or treating.
This was just probably just more informational, and dovetails a little bit with the conversation we just finished having. The questions we get every year: when's Halloween? Well, of course, it's on the 31st of October. So that's not the question. Is whether or not we feel that there needs to be any certain restrictions, or I think more than anything else is for council to be aware that we will follow the normal procedure, which is sound the siren at 6 and sound it again at 9. If you don't want them to come up your doorstep, turn off your light. I think more than anything else, we just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that we are following normal procedures when it comes to Halloween. And encouraging folks to obviously practice in a safe and hygienic way.
So this here pertains also to the trick or treat you do on Main Street?
Well, that was canceled.
That was canceled. That's all canceled.
Yeah, that was canceled.
I have to leave the room. Can we hold up for about 2 or 3 minutes?
Sure. I'm trying to remember our pro tem is not here tonight. More informational than anything else.
Right, it's one of those things that's, there's probably gonna be a lot less trick or treating this year.
Yeah, and I think
There's
that's
a lot of people gonna be scared to death to,
go door to door.
right. I just don't see it happening, especially with the Main Street being canceled, and I'd be really shocked to see neighborhoods busy this year. That's gonna hurt the candy industry and everything else. That's gonna be sad for
Think of
them.
all those dentists that'll be out of work.
Don't worry, I still will contribute to the candy. Oh, I know. But the election's in 4 days afterwards, so I get 3 days afterwards. They all say it's gonna be over after November 3rd, remember?
We won't be able to judge the election until November, was it 17th?
Yeah, it could be.
Because I think Illinois, they're gonna be all tabulated till mail-in votes.
Yeah, I know, that's what they're keeps, like you said. I decided, I don't know.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I don't have anything more to add, sir.
You don't have anything more to add? Are there any other discussion about Halloween?
Same thing, highly recommend you be very cautious.
Yes, I think we should definitely do that. You know, they're gonna trick or treat. And if you don't want anybody coming to your house, make sure you turn your light off so that they don't. I don't know how it is in other neighborhoods, but generally I have between 150 and 200 kids come to my house.
Yeah, you guys are hot neighborhoods, so
Yes.
you and Jim and
So
Tim.
we count every year. But I think we should encourage our citizens that if they do trick or treat, they trick or treat safely. Keep your kids close to you and not have groups of kids get together. I mean, I know they're going to school, but it's still, they're gonna have masks on.
Yeah, this is one event that I can encourage you for, so I think we're good to go.
Hopefully in a month and a half, it'll be better news by then.
Yeah. Is there any other discussion on Halloween and trick or treating? Okay, now we're ready to discuss. Old business. The budget.
So hopefully you guys have had time to review all of this lovely information. I'm just gonna go over the budget highlight sheet that I went over last time, because it's the yellow highlights, the changes that I made from the last meeting. So the first one, you could tell I changed the part last time. I adjusted the allocations for
Having trouble hear you.
What page are we looking at?
it's the budget highlight page. So I'm going over the budget highlight sheet, guys.
Okay.
And mainly the yellow highlights from the changes from last meeting. So I adjusted the park allocations for customer service and tourism clerk, mainly because we were adding the tourism position. So that would help relieve the park fund a little bit. The other thing, based on discussions with Greg and a couple of the councilmen, I had reduced the 5% for the sales tax down to 3.5%. And a little bit of a cushion in case the businesses aren't rebounding from this. There's Home Depot, Lowe's, Schnucks, all of them. I mean, who knows how much longer they will keep going at the pace. The other thing is I added 45,000 to the revenue for county reimbursements in the receivable for next year, because hopefully they will be reimbursing us for these COVID expenses. Then I adjusted the transfer to the capital reserve from public safety from 300,000 to 600,000 to help pay for the 911 expense. And I added the council room project on there for the capital purchases. And then basically the other things we just did was look line by line for each fund and adjust things accordingly to make sure that the ending fund balance was appropriate. So I've given you guys the salary sheet, the green sheet that has all the fund balances and all of the capital. Do you have any other questions for myself or Brett?
I know with Matt just starting, but did you get a chance to look at any of this, Matt, earlier, just to see if you were, I mean, I know you're just starting, but
Yes, sir. I reviewed it, again, only from a cursory level, because I can obviously read the words on the pages just like you guys can. I just don't have understanding on what that means for the operation next. I just don't have
right, until
enough
you
time to
get,
set.
I know next year will be a lot better for you to figure out what's what. But you got somewhat of an idea of what's being approved for your area or something.
Yes, sir.
And I was hoping Greg, had time to talk to you about it.
Yes, we have that. I came in last Friday and we yes. I will say, just to reiterate something I said to you guys before, in the last couple of years, we've kind of changed the way I think we've modernized or economized the process we go through. It puts a lot on our department heads to be able to come in and have a tight presentation, say, this is what I'm looking for as far as operational expense, and this is what we're going to need from capital expense. They do a super job. And we had some extra help this year, obviously, with Matt Clemens leaving, the job that Shane did, the job that Josh did, the job that Mark Harris had to do, Greg Brerer had to do. I just can't say enough about the job that the department heads do. But them bringing information for us that is easy to go through, easy to digest. It's not anything it doesn't get confrontational or any way. I think we all realize that we're just, pulling the same end of the same piece of rope. So it made my job and Stephanie's job a lot easier. I think having a lot of the work that we did, we did a lot of work last year. There was a lot of heavy lifting last year. It makes this process a lot easier for you moving forward. Having the job descriptions and the salary schedules and everything in there like we did last year. I know that was a lot of effort, but I think it just makes this year even easier.
Do you have any other questions?
There's still time, obviously, between now and the 28th. If there's anything you have questions about at all, please see me, see Stephanie. Happy to answer your questions. I know Brian Wayner and I spent some time on the phone earlier today. But the intent then is for us to bring the final ordinance to you along with the amendment for this fiscal year. That would be on the next meeting, which would be September 28th. And of course, the new fiscal year starts on October 1st.
Is there any other discussion about the budget at this time? We'll go into the city council reports. Councilman Boyer.
Matt, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
First time I got to meet you, but I've heard a lot about you already. Most of it's been good.
Well, that's probably about it.
Good to have you on board.
Thank you.
Received a call from the Pine Mountain owners. I'm sure you.
I received a call also.
And I have received an email.
Okay. They basically were complaining about the streets being blocked off. Several of the businesses it was affecting down there said it was kind of hurting their businesses at that time. If it hurts their businesses with taxes, it hurts the city of Festus taxes too. So I listened to them. I talked to them about it. I usually go down and research it, being that's in my ward. but they'd like to be notified of impending work. If there's any way that they can do that.
Yeah, I talked with, is it Dina?
D, yes,
Yeah.
D.
D, yeah.
I asked if there was anything that the downtown merchants, because we coordinate with, obviously, when the chamber has an event, when Tanglefoot has an event, when, obviously, when the city has an event, we're able to kind of use our own means, our own channels that we have, whether it's social media, the website. Certainly, in some cases, we're able to go, like for city events, you know, the PD will even go and knock on doors in some instances. When you have something like this, and you have if you have an organization that isn't maybe part of any of those groups, it's hard to get the word out. So I was asking for them if there was anything that they felt would be helpful to them, to share it with us, because I want to make sure that all the merchants, not just the ones that are part of the chamber or part of, you know, the downtown association, we want to make sure that all the merchants are able to be communicated with.
Sure.
I hope they can provide us with the method, but Dave, if they talk to you, or Mayor, if they talk to you and share, you know, an idea or a suggestion, and if we need to, I don't know, tape signs to light posts or whatever it is, we try to make it as easy as possible.
I think we wanted some kind of a calendar of events, as far as like shutting down the roads or construction going on in that area, which would affect downtown. And I can sympathize with them. I'm all about the downtown merchants. I love Main Street. It's always been a drawing card along with the, you know, parks out here and everything, but really try to work with these people in some way. So y'all continue to talk to them and see if there's a certain thing that they would really like to see, you know, done. She said also, Dee's quite a talker, and she said this guy came in to talk to her husband, and I guess it was after somebody contacted Public Works, and I'm not sure who it was. I said, next time get a name of who you're talking to. But so a little bit on the rude side, you know, saying, well, those are our streets. We can do what we want to with them. And
I don't believe, that wasn't what she expressed to me in an email. She told me that the person in Public Works she spoke to was very helpful.
Okay, well, she had a different saying on the phone.
Okay.
And then another business person down there wanted to know if this COVID-19, since we were back to counties in the red on this, was there anything else that's been changed that they should be notified about?
The recommendations, and there's the county health department has a very good list on their COVID page, on their website, in reference to their recommendations when you're at this color. At the red level, you know, they want small groups, they want social distancing, they want you to wash your hands. But unlike back in April or May, they're not recommending closures of any businesses or anything like that.
And the city has nothing.
No.
Additional.
We defer to the county health department.
Good deal. I guess that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilman Weiner?
He's muted. Hang on. There you go.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry. I had my my phone, Matt, muted. Matt, I'd like to also welcome you to the city of Festus. And I know that when you went through the interview that personally, I was very impressed with you and you scored really high. So I'm glad that you're here. I also would like to say what Josh is really doing a good job with the Parks Department. You know, I can just see a lot of little things that are being taken care of. My wife and I are out quite a bit, and I think that everything I'm seeing as far as maintenance, soaps, waters, trees, grass, all that is looking really good. The next thing, give you guys a little heads up. Jim Berger with the like Mr. Pickleball around here. He's got some nice visions of the future, and I think he's going out and just getting some ideas of what cost might be for different ideas that he has. And he'll probably be presenting these to us just for informational purposes only. And we'll probably have those at our next meeting. I'm once again very happy that we had our speed signs allocated this year in the budget so that hopefully we can have a safer Festus than maybe some people that accidentally are maybe creeping a little bit faster than they need to go. And finally, I'd like to thank the police for, if you look at that report and see that everything that they do, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of action going on here. So I'd like to commend them on a job well done and thank them for that. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wilkie.
I'd like to just welcome Matt aboard as well, and that's all I've got.
All righty, thank you, sir. Councilman Vins.
Yep. Welcome again, Matt. Thank you. I'm afraid that's pretty much about it. Thanks, sir.
Councilman Dennis.
Welcome aboard, Matt, and to reiterate what Brian said. Our staff's done a really good job in these trying times, and we've kept everything up and running and looking nice. So, needs to be said. So that's all, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Tennant.
Welcome, Matt.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. I guess it's my turn. First thing I'd like to say is I'd look at the police report there also and noted the number of tickets given and the number of traffic stops. Keep up the good work.
Yes.
It's always good. You know, I live pretty close to A Highway and see cars being stopped on there, probably for speeding or stoplights running, but the officers are doing a good job of traffic control on A Highway, and I appreciate it.
Yes.
I'd like to say one thing here. Our last meeting ended we had some discussions that were pretty intense on both ways. And I did a personal call to each one of you. And I wanted to relay to our city administrator that we have 100% confidence in the job that you're doing, and keep up the good work, Greg.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Good job, Greg.
Thank you.
Having said that, welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. What about that Cromwell?
Oh, yeah.
Forgot that. I knew there was something else I was on my.
I had a chance to talk to some of you today. I didn't get a chance to talk to all of you. Last Wednesday, I gave our contractor, we gave him enough rope that he finally, last Wednesday, I told him that he had until 9 a.m. this morning to complete the work or remove his equipment from the site. We talked this morning at 7. He said he was not able to complete the work. He is in the process of getting his equipment off-site. We'll worry about, who owes what who later on, but I think that the greater concern is the street's been closed this long. I have a phone log that goes back to, mid-August of trying to get this guy to get the job done. So I think we were more than generous in trying to work with, obviously, a small contractor to complete the task that he had bid for, and it didn't work out. So I've been in contact with, talked with our crews today. They've got their hands full with Briarton right now. I talked with Grant Jokers today, since they're in town doing the overlays anyway, if they could free up a couple of guys to get over there and just let's get Crown Buck open. I think that's the first and foremost for all of us. He said they might be able to get there Wednesday. So that's the intent right now is, obviously we had to let the other guy go, basically fired him. And we're gonna get somebody in there and get the street open as quickly as possible.
He was jackhammering tonight.
On the big pile of cold asphalt. Make it easier for us, I guess, at the end of the day, but at this point, it's not like you need to do us any favors. The favor would have been to open the street on time.
Because he was, over the weekend, that's all he did was pound on that pile of asphalt.
Oh, I know, I saw that too.
Yeah, it's, like I said, you hate to see it. I don't like being the hammer, but today I got to play the hammer. And you know, lesson learned, he came well recommended. Matt Clemens and Shane Dollar both. You know, if you go back and look at the staff reports from May, you know, he was the low bid by you know, a little more than $100, but there wasn't any reason to not hire him, and it just didn't work out for reasons that only he knows. I don't think we're concerned about that. We're just concerned about the calendar and how long it took.
So it's possible it could be open by the end of the week.
Yes, yes. So.
I mean, you guys still got inspected. I mean, is it all put in right though, as far as the?
I think we have some concerns there too, Bobby, to be honest with you. The wing walls of the header that was poured. I think there's some deficiencies there. The job was done as a bid job, which was the tear out of the old culvert, put in the new culvert. There weren't any plans. There was just basically, you got to do these 8 or 9 things that were on a list. So there wasn't a spec as to, you know, the thickness or height of a wing wall. It just said install wing walls. So there's probably going to be some additional work that's going to come. But right now, I think paramount more than anything else is let's just get the road open. Residents have been more than patient.
I mean, what's that do? Call an engineer to have to come in and check it out?
No, I think that's something our guys can come back and if we need to get it at a later date. Matt and I talked about this today. He was even like, let's just throw some gravel in there, pack it in and get the street open and do it that way. Obviously, there's times we have open cuts where we'll leave gravel
Right.
And have to come back and fill until we can get the asphalt in there.
Right.
I think if we're able to move quickly enough, another couple of days, we ought to be able to get, you know.
I mean, it's not concerned where you have to pull the damn thing out and redo it.
No. The installation of the culvert itself was done pretty much to spec. I don't know if you were here when we did that. It was a little bit of a different approach to it. The idea was that we would buy the material, which was the box culvert, and then hire separate the contractor to come in and do the demo and the installation. So normally we would hire someone to come in and demo and install and do the whole thing. I think we try to save a few pennies, and we got it for a lot less. But I think here in the case of this one contractor, again, I know Brian Malone and I talked about this. You figure the number of bids that you guys approve every year. You're talking 75 to 100 bids that you approve for either material or services or both. And we got one bad one. And I think the guy just got in over his head. I don't know, but it's disappointing.
How do we judge how much we're going to pay?
Based on the amount of percentage of the work that's done, certainly the demolition was done, the installation of the culvert was done, and then it starts to go downhill from there, Jim.
I don't even know if he wired the seams on the culvert.
No, the culvert, yeah, they came with a special mastic tape where you put the sections together.
I don't know if he ever used it.
Based on what I was told, when the project was moving along, when he first started, and he was moving along at a pretty good clip. About the time that he got to, well, right after the culvert went in, is pretty much when he started to have problems.
Yeah, I agree with you though. I mean, one out of many. I don't remember any other bad ones.
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while we have a little trouble, but it's not bad.
So
I agree with you, Jim.
Yeah.
I knew there was something I had yet.
Yeah, by the end of the week, hopefully.
Thank God. I'm getting tired of going along.
Is there any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is adjourned.